It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
The time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Tuesday, which sucks half as much as Monday.
Today's show is sponsored by pretzel-flavored mustard.
Yum.
Why eat the pretzel when you can just eat the mustard?
No chewing required. So if you have dentures, don't worry about it.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
But Dave from San Francisco, and I assume Greg over in Laramie are both still under their bed sucking their thumbs. At some point, they're going to feel like they need to come out. I mean, they'll have to use the toilet or something eventually. But the world is just over for them. Meantime, I've been very concerned about her, and I continue to check in on Liz Cheney. Let's go to Virginia, see how she is. Whoa. Okay, we'll get over it at some point over there. All right, so first story for you today is just a weird one. So the FDA, and I'm looking forward to get rid of this kind of garbage. I hope to anyway. I hope to when Trump gets into office. The Food and Drug Administration came up with the dumbest reason for Costco to recall 80,000 pounds of butter. 80,000 pounds of butter. Yeah, so now I'm pausing for a minute because I want you to try to imagine. Why would they possibly? It's got some, salmonella in it, or what the heck? Someone see mold or whatever? Well, a survey of a Danish creamery revealed that Americans use butter for almost everything, especially since we're getting close to Thanksgiving. It's going to be on all sorts of stuff. This year, thanks to the Biden FDA, the story says, there's going to be a lot of disappointed families because Costco was just forced to recall almost 80,000 pounds of Kirkland signature butter on the shelves because of what it says was an undeclared allergen. Now, what could the undeclared allergen be? Well, according to Sweet Cream Butter's first ingredient, it doesn't say anything about containing milk. Right. It doesn't. Well, there's nothing in there that says it contains milk. And some people have milk allergies. What is butter? What is butter made out of? Right, so if you pick up butter, that's like saying on a carton of milk that you have to say that it contains milk. And so some people reacting to this, who doesn't know that butter comes from milk? Quote, this is exactly the kind of regulation stupidity that Elon Musk talks about. This could have destroyed some small farm suppliers. Another person responding, Would Dodge have saved this butter? I don't know. FDA just destroyed 80 pounds of butter because the packing doesn't warn a consumer contains milk. Abolish the FDA. That's a good one. Ingredients do list cream, though, so maybe the FDA isn't sure where cream comes from. Then the cream gets churned, and you get butter out of that. Right. So I think we really do need Elon Musk here. Trump, I don't recall him saying it officially yet, but the idea is that Elon Musk was going to get tapped for a new role as sort of an efficiency czar to deal with regulators in the bureaucracy, because this is one of those many things that just gets beyond stupid. I've said this before. What we have with the bureaucracy is a bunch of people sitting in their little cubicles and offices, and we have hired them to sit there and write new rules and reinterpret old rules. And that's all they do all day long. And so they have to justify their jobs. So after a while, you can imagine how absurd it gets. And this is how absurd. So, okay, we're supposed to have, we'll see, Elon Musk step in and start working with these agencies to get rid of, and I would say fire a lot of these people would how I would do it. But okay, let me see. Here's a video that someone posted. How butter is made. Wow. Well, okay, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start a little bit of the video here because I think Chef Jean Perrier.
Well, hello there, friends.
Yeah.
Guess what we're making today?
Butter.
Butter.
Yes. Okay. So,
we're gonna make butter from scratch, friends.
So he's gonna make butter, and look, I see as he's doing this, he's got a mixing bowl with a bunch of milk in it.
You're going to make it one time, you'll never buy butter again. I promise you. What do you need to make butter?
There we go.
Very simple. You need cream. Heavy
cream.
Whipping cream. I like to use the 40% if you can find it.
Or raw milk. Raw milk would be good. Heavy whipping cream comes from where?
Heavy whipping cream. You got to try to use at least 36%.
Or it comes from heavy whipping cream and raw milk come from the same thing.
Butter it is. Butter is good.
Yeah, it's a cow's, just so you don't. Anyway, he continues on here.
Really quick, so the video is not too long. We're going to whip it, and we're going to separate the cream from the buttermilk.
Wait. What did he just say there? We're going to separate the cream from the buttermilk. So there's milk in there. Okay. I would like someone to whoever wrote this, whoever made the rule, person or people at the FDA, I'd like to sit them down for just a moment and ask them, if we were to make butter, where does it come from? Okay. So you will have, despite what you heard in the story there, enough butter for Thanksgiving, but still 80,000 pounds of it from one particular company, by the way. And so there's plenty more out there, but 80,000 pounds. Now, I would like to see what kind of a loss that is for the company. Because somebody had it right when they said, this could really put some people out of business. I mean, it really could. Whether it's the company that produces the butter or whether you're talking about, farmers with their cows, whatever the case is, especially people who are small business owners. You can definitely put them out of business with something like this. But this is government regulation gone over the top. Now, I would also like to know if we can set up something while Elon Musk is hopefully dealing with this kind of bureaucracy. And can we set up something where there's a quick appeal? So when government steps up and says, you have violated a rule, you know how slow bureaucracy is. Somebody can turn quickly and say, hold on, that's insane. Let's go ahead and review this, real fast. Because you're talking about pulling something off the shelf right now. And it definitely even has a shelf life. So the quick ruling by the FDA is something that someone should be able to appeal quickly at the same time. And the first thing you'd have to do is get someone in there that, speaks common sense. Let's work with that, common sense. So, okay, this butter thing illustrates much bigger problems that need to be dealt with in our government. And one of the stories that I have coming up for you here is dealing with the EPA. Trump has picked someone for the EPA that I think you're really going to like. I say Jim and Casper. They recalled that but allowed processed poison to be consumed. Most foods that the FDA allows here can't be sold in Europe. Got to say that when I was there, one thing that I really noticed was far fewer processed poisons in the grocery store. Yeah. Morning, Glenn. This is why 50% of federal employees need to go, says I-80 John in Granite Canyon. And I absolutely agree with that. Why 50% need to just go. By the way, Jim, on that note, I'm going to bring up a rule after this news and information break that has been driving me nuts, and it has to do with private pilots and airplanes. And it's actually more of not a new rule, but an interpretation of an old rule. And I'm serious about this. I am going to work with AOPA to make sure this thing goes away. I'll explain it in just a minute.
This one's for the people who have ever felt the pain of stepping on a Lego. I know it hurts. This one's for the people who have ever felt the pain of losing $1 to a broken vending machine. It's sad. This one's for the people who's allergic to dogs. That must be rough. Get it? Rough. It's gonna be okay.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
You asked for an expert. We didn't have the budget for that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Butter company and says you have to remove about 80,000 pounds of butter from the shelves because it doesn't have one important ingredient listed on it. And some people are allergic to it. Milk. David is in Guernsey. Hello, David. Are you there?
I'm here.
There you go. I got you now. Go ahead.
So, why don't they just print up a bunch of stickers that says, duh, contains milk?
Yeah.
And put them on the boxes.
See, you
instead
and
of destroying it.
You and Mike from Leeds, South Dakota said the same thing. Just go ahead and put a sticker contains butter on it and call it good. That way we're not throwing out a whole bunch of food that people could use.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. All right.
But that's just how dumb things are.
Yes, that is. No, you can't do that for some reason because the FDA says so. I don't know why. But this is why we need to get Elon Musk in there with, I hope, the power to fire some people.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would. All right.
Just clean house.
Yes, it would do a lot of good. All right, thanks for hanging on, Dave. I appreciate it. He's from Guernsey calling in. All right, let's see. Chet in Yoder says, bunch of food companies are owned by China. And they are an adversary. We don't need, they don't need bullets this way. Tumbleweed says, first clue, I like this, Tumbleweed's in KC. And I think this is just as smart as saying, just put a sticker on it. First clue, it's in the dairy section. Yes, it's in the dairies, you morons. Contains dairy, which is cows. First clue right there, but that's the FDA for you. So, yes, I would like Elon Musk to have the ability to just fire people. Now, on that note, I said to Jim I was going to pull up something that had to do with aviation. So let's say you're a private pilot, right? You own your own little airplane. And so you would like to go ahead and take a friend of yours for a ride somewhere, and just a joyride. That's fine. But let's say your friend wants to pay, you're doing all the work at your airplane. Your friend wants to pay for the fuel for the nice trip you're out there. Let me pay for the gas. They can't do that. They can pay for half the gas, but they can't pay for all the gas. What about other expenses? No, it's got to be split down the middle. And you can't say, okay, but I'll give you a gift instead. I'll pay for something else. No. You can't do that because then it's considered profiting from it. And you can't profit from it now. But now here's the latest on a rule that is reinterpreted. Let's say your friend turns to you and says, hey, I need to go to Cody. Can you give me a ride? And it's your friend. You're going to take your airplane and give your friend a ride to Cody because they need to get there and you're doing them a favor. No, because you don't have a common purpose. That's how the rule's been reinterpreted now. You're not going there with a common purpose. So, no, you can't do that. You can get in trouble for that. Now, my thought is, well, it's your airplane. It's your friend. You should be able to do what you want to do with it. But this is when bureaucrats who are sitting there in their offices looking at the rules and reinterpreting rules over and over again, writing new rules, this is how out of hand it gets. Yes, the same thing with butter. And like I said, I got a story about we have a new EPA head coming in, who the Environmental Protection Agency, for those of you who are in business, drilling, digging for energy, you're into ranching, you're into farming, to name a few things, where the EPA has been coming down with one rule after the next. And states like Wyoming have been involved in how many lawsuits to try to fight, costing us how much money, to try to fight rules and regulations that do nothing really of any good. They just shut down the economy, put people out of business. Wouldn't it be nice between Elon Musk and the new head of the EPA that Trump's going to install to be able to get rid of most of that? Just keep a few common sense rules out there. Imagine how we free up the economy. I know what the other side's going to say. People will die. You're going to destroy the planet. Well, big piles of steaming buffalo chips. I was going to say something else, but I got to watch my language on the radio station. So let's see. Milo in Fort Danger. How about tell the EPA to stuff it? I would love to do that. Yes. I would love just to turn to the EPA. You need to throw out 80,000 pounds of butter. No, we're not doing that. No. And see what they do about it in response. All right. I'll have the EPA story up next. You'll like the guy Trump is going to put in place, I think. Coming up on 6:30, local news. Coming away after local news, update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. Wake Up Wyoming.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So let's take a look at the Environmental Protection Agency. Trump is going to come into office and install someone new. Thank God. Former GOP Representative Lee Zeldin, Republican New York, will be the new EPA administrator. So you've seen what we've had over the past few years while Biden has been in office. And as they've come down hard, not just on coal, gas, and oil, but farmers, ranchers, and name anything else that the EPA has had its hands into, especially as the EPA sees it, if it has to do with climate change as they see it. And this is how we get into the nonsense of carbon sequestration, et cetera, and why some Wyoming power plants are threatened with closure when we need reliable energy. And as I've talked about at length on this program, and CO2 is not a pollutant, so we don't need to sequester it. It doesn't even work. We don't even know how to. And so with that in mind, here comes a Trump administration and someone brand new who, and this is a quote from Trump. He wrote a letter. Lee, very strong background, fighter for America First policies. He will ensure fair and swift deregulatory decisions from the EPA that will be enacted in a way to unleash the power of American business, while at the same time maintaining the highest level of standards, including the cleanest air and water on the planet. He will set standards on environmental review and maintenance that will allow the United States to grow in a healthy, well-structured way. So, now, like you, I'm in favor of clean air. I'm in favor of clean water. I want the ground to be clean. I mean, who doesn't? It's when we start getting into the nonsense of, again, CO2 is a pollutant and et cetera, that we just got to stop that. And this is what I hope that they stop with someone new as head of the EPA. Now, in a little article that I wrote up for the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning, I mainly mentioned industries like coal, gas, and oil, and ranching and farming. Yeah, let's not deal with cow farts. Can we get away with that? Can we just not, and just, it's okay to raise cattle. But EPA has been involved in a lot more than just emissions. There was even an attempted rule a few years ago when it had to do with dust. So when farmers are out there plowing, they kick up a lot of dust, and the EPA wanted to make sure that that dust stayed way down, and the rules they try to put in place would have basically put a lot of farmers out of business. They couldn't have financially have afforded to keep the dust down to the levels that the EPA was saying. We're just talking dust being kicked up by tractors moving around. That's how ridiculous it got. But now that was actually killed. But and I thought about this when I was putting the little article together. When Trump was in office the first time, and he appointed someone as head of the EPA. Immediately, a lot of people who worked for the EPA quit. And Trump made sure that those positions were not refilled. You want to go? Fine, and we're just going to close your office. Fine, we don't need you. And that helped with a lot of deregulation during the Trump administration. I'd be very interested to see. I think it'll happen again this time around. So as this guy comes in, this Republican from New York comes in, how many people who currently work for the EPA just decide to call it? Because most of them, I would say, are environmental extremists who used to protest and, to try to save the environment. You saw them out there waving signs and protesting. That doesn't work. And so they tried to run for office or change laws, and that didn't work. So they got a job working for the EPA. We had a lot of environmental extremists in offices like EPA, BLM, and so on. So let's just get rid of them. And I'm not saying no EPA, although there has been the argument made for that. Okay. I would not say no EPA, but just enough rules and regulations to make sense. Real pollution, we got to make sure that it's real pollution that we're talking about here. For example, if someone's drilling for oil and they make a mess, they should be liable to clean it up. Someone is done drilling for oil and they're leaving the site, they should clean up the site. Same thing goes for coal mining, which we do today very well. We do that very well today. So I'm all for keeping it clean. But again, we're talking real clean, not to the extent that the EPA was going through, which would shut down farms and ranches, which would, and again, I'm just naming a few things. Many factories would be shut down. Energy production. I can imagine under a Trump administration that some Wyoming power plants and coal mines that were slated to be shut down could actually be open, stayed open for the next few years or for decades to come, as they should be, because we need reliable sources of energy. So let's see what Trump can do and the new EPA director. And that has a lot to do with not just the United States, but focusing here at home, with energy here at home, and ranching and farming here at home. And I wonder who's going to be in charge of the Bureau of Land Management. I want to see that too. Hope we get someone really good there. And then again, with Elon Musk going along, helping to clean things up. Let's see how fast they can get some of this done. 642, Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Off we go to the icebox where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, I don't think you've had too much of a problem. I mean, it hasn't been, to my knowledge, much of a problem here at our offices. If you put some food in the refrigerator, do you trust it's going to stay there, or does somebody take it?
No, there's wolves here.
Oh, there are.
There's two options here. A, it'll disappear from somebody else. B, it'll be in there for years.
Well, okay. Now, I have seen stuff in there for years, yeah. But I haven't had the problem of everyone taking my stuff, but you have?
Well, I never put stuff in there except for like pop and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But we get, but that's a community thing anyway.
Yeah, there are people who, sometimes, in fact, I know that our friend down the hallway, Sean, likes to bring in those energy drinks. But there are energy drinks that are in there for everybody. Yes. So he's got to identify his. I think that's a different story.
And he puts a little sticky note on there.
Yes. Sometimes I've thought of putting another sticky note below that with a sarcastic response. But anyway, then there are people who like to get revenge. So here's a guy who put a bag of jelly donuts in the refrigerator at work with his name on it. Mm-hmm. But then he filled the jelly with, he took the jelly out and filled it with spicy mustard.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, see where he's going with this here.
So he knew
somebody was
who was
steal
stealing his donuts.
Yeah, so he puts the spicy mustard in there and really surprises somebody. Unless they like it with spicy mustard, I guess, but okay. Then here's another guy who took a sandwich and rather than putting mayonnaise on it, spread something on there that basically you wouldn't like. Just nothing dangerous, just disgusting.
It's just bad, yeah.
Yeah, they make you just want to spit the sandwich out. So there is the idea of training people who like to steal food that maybe they shouldn't, because it's going to be bad.
I think part of the lesson here, too, is that if you're stealing food and then you take a bite out of a bad sandwich, you have to hide the fact.
Oh, my Lord, yeah. Yeah. And then you got to sneak that sandwich out of work and not in your belly.
And then nobody will say, well, who stole it? Well,
yeah.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't all. Okay. So my thought is, I one time brought in a box of these little breakfast sandwiches. It was like a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant, a whole box full of them, frozen. And they disappeared quickly. And my answer was, this is like a couple
They were
years
pretty
ago.
good, actually.
Yes. Oh, yeah, were they? Oh,
Yeah.
glad you enjoyed.
Yeah.
My thought was, look, if somebody is that hungry and you would like to have some of mine, I would be happy to share them with you. But if you take them without my permission, we have a problem.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. So I am in favor of going ahead and rigging a couple of those so someone will steal them and literally get a bad taste in their mouth. I think that's the solution.
Very, very good. All right, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys have their biggest game of the year on Friday in Fort Collins, the 116th edition of the Border War, taking on Colorado State. The Pokes had last week off. They're coming off a 49-45 win over New Mexico 2 weeks ago to get to 2-7 overall and 2-3 in Mountain West play. They got a nice game from their new starting quarterback, Caden Anderson, who threw for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. CSU is 6-3 overall, 4-0 in league play after a 38-21 win over Nevada their last time out. And UW has won the last 3 Border War games and 7 of the last 8, but they are 10.5-point underdogs in Friday night's game that will start at 6 p.m. in FOCO. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team will be at Texas Tech in Lubbock tomorrow. The Pokes are coming off an 81-66 win over Tennessee State on Sunday in Laramie, where they shot 52% from the field in the game with a brutal 50% from the free throw line. Obi Egbim was great for the Cowboys with 24 points on 10 of 13 from the floor. Texas Tech has former Wyoming Cowboy head coach Jeff Linder as an assistant, so that may be a bit awkward. That's a 6 p.m. start on Wednesday. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team coming off a 76-63 loss to BYU in Provo on Saturday to drop to 0-2. Cowgirls had a strong second quarter, outscoring the Cougars 22-11, and then a horrendous third quarter where they went 1 of 12 from the field and 0 of 6 from the three-point line. At the same time, BYU was scorching UW with 12 of 19 shooting in the quarter and outscored UW 31-6 in the third quarter alone. Cowgirls will be at home tomorrow night in Laramie to beat Regis out of Denver. Girls high school swimming and diving meets for 3A and 4A wrapped up on Saturday in Cheyenne. Laramie won the girls state championship for the 7th time in the last 8 years. Plainsmen won just 2 events, but they were competitive in every event. Maggie Turpin of Laramie won the state diving championship for the 2nd year in a row. Green River was 2nd in the team standings and Cheyenne Central 3rd. Lander won the 3A state title, winning, taking first place in 11 of 12 events. Landers won the last 3 of the last 4 state championships in 3A girls swimming and 7 of the last 9. That's it in sports.
Okay. So, let me see. We're done with volleyball, right? That's over.
Yeah. Now we have state high school football championships Friday and Saturday in Laramie. Okay. We have the Border War. That's a big deal. On Friday in Fort Collins.
Okay.
And then after that, we can,
relax for a while here.
Maybe.
No, I'm sure. Who's got the Border War? What do you think?
Wyoming's not favored.
Okay.
And I worry about them in this game.
Yeah, okay. I do too.
I don't know if they're going to win this.
Do we currently have the boot?
Yes, we do.
So we don't want to give it back.
So they meet them at the border with the border run with the ROTC folks, and hopefully it's the Cowboys bowl game.
Okay.
That's what this amounts to.
Yes,
it is their bowl game this week, but they're not getting another one.
Not getting a bowl game, so this is it. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business, we got to take care. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Wake up, Wyoming. 6 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Tuesday, which does not suck as much as Monday.
Today's show is sponsored by pretzel flavored mustard. Why eat the pretzel when you can just eat the mustard?
And really, if you don't have any teeth or dentures, you're fine. It's so much easier.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Now, I'm just checking in on people. I still want to know how Dave from San Francisco is doing. I don't think well. Greg from Laramie, if you're out there, Greg, everybody's worried about you after this past election. And yes, we have been checking on Liz Cheney to see how she's doing. Head's still exploding. That's all that. All right, so a few things I want to get out of the way when it comes to here in the state of Wyoming that I thought were interesting stories for you. One of them, remember there's the University of Wyoming volleyball team that was going to play a game, decided to forfeit the game because of a trans player on the other team. Now, they were not the only ones to do it. And this has been a problem. I've seen the video of it. One particular game, and not with UW, this was a different school, that had a trans player. So, in other words, it was a girls' volleyball team with one guy claiming to be female. And at one point during the game, he jumped up and spiked the ball and hit one of the girls in the head and knocked her out. And at first he acted as if it was funny. Okay, so here's where the problem lies, because you got these guys who physically have much more prowess than the women. And the women are in great shape, but the guys have much more physical prowess. And you can see where they're going to dominate, but at times it can even be dangerous. Like in that girl that was knocked out. That's not a good thing. Okay, so the girls' volleyball team at UW had decided, look, if you got a trans player, we play girls, so we're not doing that. Here's the latest from Cowboy State Daily. So the girls on the volleyball team did take a vote as to what they were going to do, but that's not how the decision was ultimately made. And they were not the only school. There were quite a few schools around the nation who also refused to play that team with the trans player or the guy on the team. So, okay. The story says the split vote among the University of Wyoming volleyball team was considered, but ultimately it was the choice of the school leaders to forfeit the matches against the California team with as they're saying, transgender player or a guy on the team. Quote, while the valued input of the Cowgirl volleyball team and coaches was taken into consideration, final decision was made solely by UW leadership. UW has now forfeited 2 games against San Jose State University. And again, they weren't the only teams around the country to do that. Neither UW nor most of the other teams that forfeited have stated publicly why, but we know why. And by the way, they had some clarification and declassification of a Cowboy State volleyball team discussion about this. About 100 pages of communications records between those on the team from UW staffers regarding the school's first match and canceling it, which the game was back on October 5th. News reports about the player who calls himself Blair Fleming first started going viral in mid-September. So now as far as the girls' votes, it was a split but not a tie. I think it was like 3 players, I believe it was, that, if I have this right, that said, no, we'll go ahead and play, and the other players said no, but okay. So that's where we are now. The volleyball coach's first email discussed San Jose's controversy started September 16th, according to documents. And there's this team, by the way, at San Jose is going all the way to finals. And a lot of it has to do with other teams dropping out that are just saying, we're not playing you. We're not going to play you. All right, so another one. Let's see. I talked about Trump installing someone for the Environmental Protection Agency, which the last time Trump was in office was a big win, and a lot of people who worked for the EPA as bureaucrats just left. They just left. And Trump did not refill those positions. And he was able to clear up a lot of bureaucracy and get America working again. And it's not just energy like electricity, it's even mills like steel mills and other factories, which the EPA leans heavily on, mostly because of what they see as fighting climate change. And last time Trump put an end to a lot of that. Let's see if he does that again. Well, now let's take a look at grizzlies. Again, another Cowboy State Daily story. It says, after years of the status of grizzlies in Wyoming and the rest of the lower 48 being hotly debated, President-elect Donald Trump returned to the White House, could tilt the scales toward federal protection being lifted from grizzly bears. One Wyoming resident, Rob Wallace, who oversaw the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service during Trump's first term, said the grizzly delisting could be on the horizon for Trump's second term. And to me, I thought, good idea, because originally we had set out with a certain, how many grizzly bears do you think we need before we can take them off the endangered species list? Okay, well, a number was set. If we get this many grizzly bears out there, we can take them off the endangered species list. Well, we reach that number and beyond. But then here come the animal rights activists and the so-called environmentalists into the courts fighting to make sure that they stay listed. Well, at what point do we reach enough that we can delist them? Okay, again, we're already beyond that point. So part of the discussion here is for the Trump administration to finally say that's enough, we're delisting the grizzly bear. And then what exactly does that look like? What does that mean? So that's the next thing we have coming up. Also, this is an interesting story out of Weston County, which I'm just kind of watching at this point. Weston County election offices are investigating how more than 1,100 votes were not counted in a state house race on Election Day. The miscount reported by Representative Chip Neiman, Republican of Hewlett, having received just 15% of the votes cast for him in the District 1 race, even though he was running unopposed. So everybody knows he's going to win. Nearly all of the other 85% were marked as not voting in the race. The mistake was inconsequential. Again, he's going to win anyway. He's the only one on the ballot at the time. But that started to draw concern because there's a whole bunch of ballots out there. Weston County has become, the story says, in some ways, the epicenter of Wyoming political world in recent weeks. Weston County commissioners drew statewide attention in October after their move to declare 2 new state legislators of their own volition. Remember this one? Because they say that they're supposed to have representatives for their county, but because of redistricting, that they didn't get anyone a representative for their counties, so they went ahead and appointed some anyway. So we're going to see, let's go back to the vote count thing. Cowboy State Daily says the unofficial result reported Neiman has only received 166 votes with 1,289 undervotes, meaning that more than 7 times as many voters did not choose to vote in his race than cast a vote for him. If this is correct, it would have been marked as a serious drop-off in support, who received 645 votes in 2024 election and 1,074 in 2022 general election. So after a hand recount on Friday, the number of votes increased, but still not enough. So what's going on with those extra votes is what they're trying to find out. And your Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, is taking a look at it because it just seems like it's just strange what happened. And they're trying to figure out what happened with these other extra votes. Did they just not vote for him? Did they disappear somewhere? Why weren't they counted? So that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
Why is that person running? Are you okay? Is somebody chasing you? You're running on purpose? 7 in the morning.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
7:21 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so RH in Wiggins, Colorado, since I was talking about, and I do understand the discussion here. what do you call them? The UW turned down, volleyball team turned down playing a game against someone from San Jose, a team where they have what they're saying is a transgendered player. Now, RH in Wiggins, Colorado. Hey, Glenn, let's return to the original word, transvestite. Yeah. Instead of soft-sounding abbreviations like trans or transgender, progressives have done away with that, as they always do. Yeah, okay, so you want to call them transvestite instead. However you want to go ahead and do it is, to me, that's fine. I know that's offensive to some people, but it's a matter of calling it, in your mind, what it really is. And I'm one of those who says, I'm going to take a look at their chromosomes and their DNA, and that decides what the gender is. And I know people disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I'm not going to say that volleyball player is a woman, because that's not what a woman is. Okay, to me, the genetics of it is you're talking XY chromosome, and let's take a look at the DNA too. That's a guy. So, all right, moving on. So, one more Cowboy State Daily story. Enhanced oil recovery is coming to Wyoming. Now, this is something that really surprised me when I found out how much. When we find oil in the ground somewhere and we suck that oil out of the ground, depending on where you are, the remaining oil can be up to 85% of that oil still stuck down there, trapped in the cracks of the rocks. That's part of the reason fracking was invented. But even with that, there's so much oil down there that we can't get at. In the early days, hey, we find a pool of oil and we go until the pool is gone. But then what about the rest of it trapped down there, right? All right, research partnerships, and this, by the way, we have to wait for the Trump administration before we can really do this. Because under a Biden administration, they want to keep it all in the ground, right? Research partnership says the story like the one between Thermo Fisher Scientific University of Wyoming Center for Innovation for Flow-Through Porous Media aren't the only ones circling the wagons when it comes to unlocking the secrets of enhanced oil recovery in America's shale plays. From the Balkan Foundation in North Dakota to the Eagle Formation in the Permian Basin in Texas to Wyoming, Powder River Basin, oil wells have typically only given up a miserable 15% of the oil and gas resources in the ground. The remaining 85% remains trapped. Cracking the code on that has long been seen by the oil and gas industry as the key to extending the life of our well, which, by the way, for some of you who are old enough to remember when they told us that we were going to run out of oil and gas? What was it, by mid-'80s or so, I think they said it was? We just weren't going to have any more. Well, we're well beyond that, and we now, because of fracking, have hundreds of years' worth of oil in North America alone. Well, imagine being able to get at more than that. Story says a number of companies have been working on the problem with an eye on entering Wyoming. Some are relatively new, and it names the different companies here. Another company that's been around for a while longer and has already had a quite successful test run in the Balkan and other major oil and gas plays will be coming soon to Wyoming. So now, again, I look at this and I think I'm encouraged by it. The story, which is by Cowboy State Daily, goes into some real good detail about how they intend to do this. And they're working with it. Now, I'm not in favor of any kind of government subsidies on anything. These are private companies trying to find out how to get at energy with private money, which I am in favor of. And again, you're not going to be able to do something like this with a Biden administration, or if Harris had won. There's no way they'd be able to do something like this. But with a Trump administration and hopefully some good deregulation here, great. Now, I'm all in favor of making sure the environment remains clean. Got to make sure the water table stays clean, the land stays clean, the air stays clean. I'm all in favor of that. Clean and safe, absolutely. Don't feed me the nonsense about CO2, though, and climate change. That's where I'll fight you on that one. But I am in favor of let's make sure they do it clean and safe, whatever their plans are. Now, I'm just going through some Wyoming stories here. This one is from County 10. Lander School Board to hold public hearing Tuesday on future of elementary school services in Jeffrey City. Now, there's not much left to Jeffrey City. I sometimes wonder, even out loud, that if we're going to get into more uranium production, does that get Jeffrey City up and running again? Because that's what the city was built on. And now it's not even a town. There's just a few people left there. Story says Fremont County School District 1 Board of Trustees will hold a public forum this week to discuss the future of elementary school services in Jeffrey City. The forum will begin at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, that's today, at the Jeffrey City Elementary School. It gives the address here for this. But trust me, if you go to Jeffrey City, you don't need the address. You'll find it. The forum begins at 6 p.m. tonight. The agenda for the meeting to discuss the next steps for the Jeffrey City School. Now, if you're thinking about how many kids are there in Jeffrey City, not many. But then again, there's quite a few people who live around the area who would attend a school like that. So it doesn't just affect Jeffrey City itself, but again, schools around, kids around the area on ranches who would head into that school. So that's going to be a big discussion as to what happens with that school. Now, at the same time, let's head on over to Laramie County, because they're still discussing what they're going to do with closing some schools down and building some new schools. That's a big discussion there. Mark and Centennial, listening from Cabo? Really? Cabo where? Let me know. All I see is Cabo. Coming up on some local, listening from CABO. I don't know where that is, Mark. Coming up on some local business that we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that, national local update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. 7:45, Don Day has your extended weather forecast. There's some nice days, but there's some days that he actually called wonky coming our way. And I'll get out of him what he means by that. So Wake Up Wyoming.
40. The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's cold down here. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays on AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
Currently in Cabo St. Lucas, Mexico. He says the temp 70 degrees, a slight breeze, and no snow. That actually sounds really nice. All right, thanks for letting me know where you are, because that sounds like a good vacation spot right there. Weather is nice here in Wyoming at the moment. Don Day's on 745 because he used words to describe the weather, which I thought I don't normally hear him talk about wonky weather, things like that. All right, real quick, before I do this next one here. Right now they're doing one of the COP 26, something like that. One of the United Nations cult of climate change meetings. And while there was a representative from the Biden administration that showed up, the Biden administration is really not there representing anything. And they know in the next few COP meetings, Trump isn't going to send anybody to participate at all. And they're really worried about this with the cult of climate change. Out front with a megaphone is Greta Thunberg, literally.
How dare you?
I don't know if she's saying these words exactly, but essentially she is. Oh, she is not happy. So, okay, let's take a look at the latest court thing that's really going to get Greta upset. Courts ruled that a major oil company, and this is what the headline says, because this is CNN. So it's a CNN headline. Court rules that a major oil company can continue to pollute. Leave it to CNN to write a headline like that. The story says Shell Oil Company is not obligated to dramatically reduce its planet's heating pollution by 2030. Now, again, a biased article from CNN. That's why they're saying it that way. CO2 is not a pollutant. Shell. If you're talking CO2, Shell oil is not polluting. A Dutch appeals court ruled Tuesday, last week, delivering a blow to efforts by fake environmental activists to push energy companies away from organic fuels. They say fossil fuels, I'm correcting it. The ruling handed down just as an annual climate talk takes place. Here we go. COP29 in Azerbaijan overturns a previous verdict that imposes steep carbon emission reductions on the British oil and gas giant. Quote, we are pleased with the decision, which we believe is the right one for global energy transition, the Netherlands and our company, says Shell. The Shell had appealed a previous ruling handed down in 2021, which ordered the company to slash its CO2 emissions by 45% by 2030. That included emissions from its own operations from the energy, from whatever product it sells with energy. While the Hague court ruled that Shell was obligated to limit CO2 emissions in order to protect the planet from dangerous climate change, it said there is insufficient agreement in climate science on specific reduction percentages. So in other words, how much do you reduce it by? They don't know. Tuesday's ruling noted that Shell is already working to reduce emissions from its own operations, which I don't think they should have to. They shouldn't bother. They'll do it because they need to virtue signal, I guess. Friends of Earth in Netherlands, an environmental campaign group that brought the case against Shell, expressed disappointment in the outcome. This hurts, they said. The court affirmed that companies are responsible for the human rights violations resulting from climate change, they said. The judge also stated that the more than 800 fossil fuel projects in Shell's pipeline, they mean organic fuels, are contradictory to its responsibility. So this is one of those, they want to keep it in the ground. But I do like the idea that the court said the company is not obligated to meet its emissions goals by 2030. Now, let's go back to the way CNN reports this. CNN says, the court rules this major oil company, Shell, can continue to pollute. Is that what the court ruled? I don't think that's what the court ruled. And then the entire story goes on about CO2 being a pollutant and man-made climate change just being an accepted fact, according to CNN. That's their point of view. Now imagine if I had been hired as a reporter for CNN and I wrote it from a different perspective. Do you think it would have made it past, or even if I had written a balanced story to include both perspectives, the one I disagree with and the one I would agree with? I was trying to be fair about it. And do you think, and I think you already know the answer to this, would it have made it past the editors at CNN? No, they're going to report it from one particular point of view, and fine. We already know it's by CNN. But I am happy with the court ruling anyway, because climate activists are trying to do anything they can to keep coal, gas, and oil in the ground, including, if they can't get legislation passed, lawsuits.
They say cows are bad for the environment because all they do is eat plants and fart. Just like vegans.
And we were busy tricking pescatarians into eating Rocky Mountain oysters. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Okay, Don, I'm listening to your podcast this morning, and I've never heard... Well, first off, let's just talk about today's weather here. Overall nice, right? I mean, pretty much?
No.
Oh.
That's going to, yeah, we've got some changes coming. And we got rain and snow in eastern Idaho and Utah right now. So the day starts nice.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
But as the afternoon hours wear on, especially there in Casper, you're going to see snow showers developing and falling temperatures, and the winds will be picking up. So it's a little deceiving.
Yeah.
We're off to a good start, but by the end of the afternoon, it's going to be much different.
Okay, so what about the rest of this week then?
Not bad, because this front is zipping along. It's not going to linger. And by this time tomorrow, it's going to be in central Nebraska. So it's going to cover a lot of ground quickly. So that means tomorrow, while it'll be a little windy and a little cooler, it'll be dry. And we don't have much going on for Thursday and Friday. And we do have a system arriving this weekend, but it's going to get split apart. So I don't expect that it's going to be much of a weather maker.
Okay. But then we get into next week, and it's the first time I've ever heard you do a weather report where you use the word wonky.
Yeah, it's going to be a little wacky next week. Yes.
Okay, so let's define what that is, because I was watching as you were setting up your weather maps there with where the highs and the lows are, and I thought, is he setting up a weather map or is he playing chess? Because all the pieces are lined up just right.
Yeah, I think I used the word wackadoodle.
Wackadoodle, that was it, yes.
Wackadoodle. And so, wackadoodle is actually a person that's a little wacky, a little crazy, but I'll apply it to the weather because we personalize anything anyway.
Sure.
But we have a pattern next week that, if it does come together, as some of the models are showing, could really cause a lot of challenges because it is predicting that we're going to get another one of these big lows that get cut off from the main jet stream. Not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, it's going to put a very big low in the west central United States that could stick around for a few days and make it difficult. Now, that's what happened last week when we saw the huge snows down in Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. That was because of a cutoff low. It's just now that it looks like the cutoff low may be more north central United States. So that's where it gets to be a little wackadoodle.
Okay, so we just got to keep an eye on the way things line up. We got a while to do that. By the way, at first I objected. Every time they had a new winter storm, they would give it a name like a hurricane. Then I started to like it because then I could scream at this guy, "Damn it, Eric," if it was a really bad storm.
Yeah, no, we should not personalize the weather. I even think naming hurricanes is a bad idea.
You do, yeah. Okay. I don't mind, again, because now I know who to yell at. But okay.
Well, I guess if it makes you feel better,
it does.
And they're not yelling my name, I guess.
I said that'd be there's your alternative. It's either yell your name or yell at the storm. I would say name the storms. All right. Thank you, Don. Appreciate Don with day weather. So this week not all that bad. We get into some weird stuff next time around, but we've got to let it line up. All right, off we go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's over there in the ice chest. All right,
Frank. Will you ask Don the next time you have him what the weather is going to be in Laramie on Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
For the high school football game.
Okay.
I'm very interested to know what he thinks about that.
Do that tomorrow because of course it'll change between now and then.
Of course, and it'll change probably on Friday too.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So I came across and I posted this on my social media. It's a family photo. Mm-hmm. Everybody's all dressed up, smiling at the camera, maybe, because they all have their backs to the camera. Right. And I thought, what a perfect family photo that is. And so I went looking for other family photos out there where they decided. Now, there's the bad ones. Like, here's one where everybody's dressed up in a gopher suits.
There's some that are frankly scary.
Yes. The Christmas.
Creepy.
Yeah, the Christmas photo where everybody's dressed up as a Christmas present.
No. Some of them, they have like those looks on their faces like Lizzie Borden, that kind of thing.
I do like this one, though. Here is a family. They have like a bunch of kids. And everybody is smiling except Dad.
Yeah. You know why? Because he has to pay for the photographs. That's
why. Okay. Here's the one where everybody got dressed up in green tights and posed as if they were a Christmas tree.
Now, why are they doing this?
I don't know why. Now, here's one I do. Oh, no, I love this one. I have to send this to my sister. Okay, so mom and dad are duct taped up, mouths too, and also one more sibling duct taped up with mom and dad. And the middle child, who looks to be about 4 years old, is standing there smiling with a roll of duct tape.
I don't understand.
Well, he duct taped everybody.
Yeah, he's 4.
Yes.
How did he do that?
It's. Okay, probably the photographer duct taped everybody and then handed it to the kid and said, just look at me and smile.
Yeah.
But you get the idea, though, right?
Yeah. Well, why would the mom and the dad and the kid even submit to this kind of humiliation?
I walked into one house with some friends of mine, and they have 3 kids, husband and wife, 3 kids. And they were all dressed up. I mean, they looked nice, and their hair was all done nice, and they were all posing perfectly, smiling at the camera. And I looked at them and I said, who are these people? Because
you didn't recognize them.
I've been over to this house many times. I've never seen these people.
Yeah, they're hellions now. They want their Christmas gifts. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will have their biggest game of the year on Friday in Fort Collins with the 116th edition of the Border War. They'll take on Colorado State. Pokes had last week off and coming off a 49-45 win over New Mexico a couple of weeks ago to improve the 2-7 overall, 2-3 in Mountain West play. Got a nice game from new starting quarterback Caden Anderson, who threw for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. CSU is 6-3 overall and 4-0 in league play after a 38-21 win over Nevada their last time out. And UW's won the last 3 Border War games and 7 of the last 8. But they are 10.5-point underdogs in Friday's game that will start at 6 o'clock in Fort Collins. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team will be at Texas Tech in Lubbock tomorrow. The Pokes are coming off an 81-66 win over Tennessee State on Sunday in Laramie as they shot 52% from the field in the game, but a brutal 50% from the free throw line. Obi Agbim was great for Wyoming with 24 points on 10 of 13 from the floor. Texas Tech with former Wyoming Cowboy head coach Jeff Linder as an assistant, so that may be a little bit awkward. That's a 6 p.m. start on Wednesday. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team coming off a 76-63 loss to BYU in Provo on Saturday to drop to 0-2. Cowgirls had a really strong second quarter, outscoring BYU 22-11, and a horrendous third quarter where they went 1 for 12 from the field and 0 for 6 from the three-point line. At the same time, BYU scorched UW with 12 of 19 shooting in the quarter and outscored Wyoming 31-6 in that third quarter. Cowgirls will be at home tomorrow night in Laramie to meet Regis out of Denver. Girls high school swimming and diving meet for 3A and 4A wrapped up on Saturday in Cheyenne. Laramie won the girls state championship for the 7th time in the last 8 years. Plainsmen won just 2 events but were competitive in every event. Maggie Turpin of Laramie repeated as the state diving champion. Green River was second in the team standings and Cheyenne Central third. Lander won the 3A state title and took first in 11 of 12 events. Landers won 3 of the last 4 state championships in 3A girls swimming and 7 of the last 9. And that's it in sports.
Okay. So, all right, it was Friday and Saturday you needed the weather forecast?
Yes, Friday after, yes, Friday and Saturday.
And are these games outside?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Because, trust me, those championship games in Laramie, you could have all kinds of weather. I've had, sometimes it's been in the 50s.
Okay.
Sometimes it's been in the 40s. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it has snowed and been about 0.
But they played anyway.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
okay.
Yes, they do. And you'd like to, go to the games having a general idea of what to bring.
Right.
What,
so
clothing wise.
For that, right.
I usually bring I got a heavy coat and a little bit of lighter coat. And you're out there you're out there all day.
And I think it does really matter for those kids who yell, "Put me in, coach," because they want to get out there and run around and warm up.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
until they get hit when they're cold. And they're bench, like, well, I'm going to go back to the bench.
When you're bench. 8:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Tuesday, which does not suck as much as Monday.
Today's show is sponsored by pretzel-flavored mustard.
Yum.
Why eat the pretzel when you can just eat the mustard?
And by eating, that doesn't involve chewing. So if you have dentures, just take them out and go for it. All right, into the 8 o'clock hour. I always give you open phones at some point during the day. It's going to happen.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in, and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. And there's plenty of people that are sending me text messages, too, on the Wake Up Wyoming app, which I will take a look at a couple of those. But real quick, safety check. Have not heard, especially after the election, from Dave in San Francisco. So I just assume that he's still in freak-out mode. And Greg in Laramie, people are worried about you, man, after this election. So at some point, if you could check in with us. Also, let's check in on Liz Cheney. How you doing, Liz? Probably as expected there. So Dave, morning Dave, different Dave. Not all Daves are bad. As the disclaimer said, Dave in Torrington. Happy Taco Tuesday per Babylon Bee. I like this one. 100% of serial killers were forced to take family Christmas pictures with matching PJs. I believe it. All right, in Wiggins, Colorado, the CNN headline itself is an editorial, Glenn, which it is. I read a story by CNN, and the whole thing is not a news story. He's right. It's an editorial. He says, but we have been so dumbed down academically, most people these days are not capable of recognizing it. Schools need to teach proper English, proper economics. Well, yeah, and he goes on from there, but yeah, exactly right. And also, how to recognize bias, any kind of bias in a story. I would love to teach a class on how do you pick apart when someone's being biased in a news story. And sometimes reporters are biased and they don't even know that they're doing it. It's just part of who they are. They just report it from how their point of view, from how they see it. So it leaks into the story whether they're trying or not. So there's intentional bias and there's bias that just happens. Because if you wrote a news story, your bias would leak into it even if you were trying to be fair. But how to recognize it and how to recognize when it's egregious at the same time. All right, now, I'm going to give you something really different here. This is really different, just outside. Let's put all politics and social issues aside for a while. Because now and then I think you just need something different. This was sent to me by my friend Sherry. Also, I call her Thing Too, because I have two friends named Sherry and Cheyenne. And she sent this to me laughing the whole way, and I figured I had to share it with you. So here we go. Hang on while I set it up so it plays.
A Vegas-only hidden gem that you probably don't know about. If you do, let me know. We have a flying hotel room that you can book so that you and your friend or partner may join the Mile High Club. And I know I've mentioned them before, but I'm going to tell you what you get. For right around $1,000, they'll pick you up in a limo and bring you to your own private plane. The plane will be stocked with whatever romantic extras you have need of. There will be plenty of room for activities. And everyone always worries, like, where's the pilot? What's he doing while this is going on? There's a curtain that divides the pilot from the guest. The pilot will play the music that you request, and they will wear noise-canceling headphones during the duration of the flight so they're not overhearing anything that might happen in the back. The flight is much longer than you will probably need if we're being honest, but don't worry because that means you can enjoy all of the sights. The Vegas skyline is stunning, especially at night. If you're successful, you get a certificate of completion. It's based on the honor system. I'll put more details in the comments. Have you been? Would you go?
Okay, so a Mile High Club, would you like to pay for it? It costs you $1,000, I suppose. I'm just going by everybody out there knows what the Mile High Club is. Now, the Mile High Club, historically speaking, so you know, the Mile High Club started back when airplanes flying coast to coast were propeller-driven, so it took them longer. And because of that, there was, for first-class people especially, they could get little cabins. They were small, but little cabins, where the chairs could become a bed, for example, or there might be a bunk bed up above. But whatever, you can close the door, it's a little cabin. And so, of course, if you had couples flying cross-country, you know what was going to happen. Right, and so that started the whole Mile High Club thing, which is much more difficult to do today with today's airplanes that fly coast to coast so much faster. How often does a Mile High Club thing really happen? All right, but in this case, and how come someone in Vegas hadn't thought of this before? In this case, this Vegas airplane, the kind of airplane that they're using, there's the pilot up front plus room for one more up front, 2 seats up front. In the back, there's typically 4 seats. But they removed those seats, and essentially what I'm looking at is they laid down a really nice mattress and everything else that would make it look like a bed back there. And so the pilot takes off, and he closes the curtain as if that's going to make a big difference, and puts on his noise-canceling headset. Now, so you know, I have, when I fly, a noise-canceling headset for a different reason. Don't look at the radio that way. No, what they do is that because I'm in a propeller-driven airplane, and it's a little airplane, it's really loud. And so rather than just having headsets on, with today's technology, I can still hear the engine, but not really all that much. It's not that loud. But I still need to hear the engine to know it's operating properly. But it brings the noise way down. And then I can hear what's being said to me over the radio if I'm talking to anybody on the radio. So most pilots these days have those anyway. And then the pilot takes off, and whatever happens in the back, happens in the back. I like this part, based on the honor system, there is the certificate of completion. Yes, so I don't know based on what, I don't know, but they have a certificate of completion. And so you can say, you get a certificate saying, yes, I am part of the Mile High Club. Yes, we paid $1,000. They took us up in the air, and, things happened. So I guess if the airplane is rocking, who's going to knock anyway? You're like a mile up there. And I also want to know, just to make sure, if you're going to be part of the Mile High Club, you got to make sure that they're at least a mile up, right? Now, if that's the case, then isn't anyone in Denver, Colorado part of the Mile High Club? Technically speaking. And those of you listening in Laramie, you're at 7,000 feet. You're higher than that. So how many people in Laramie are part of the Mile High Club? Do you have to be in an airplane to be part of the Mile High Club? Or is it just an altitude thing? Because if you have to be in an airplane, that's different than just being a mile or more high. So I think that's something that we should take a look at technically. I think what they mean by that is you need to actually be in an airplane. So let me ask you this then. If I were to climb into an airplane with someone, but we're on the ground in Denver, we never took off, but we're on the ground and we're in an airplane, are we then part of the Mile High Club? Or do we actually have to be flying around? I will leave it to you guys to figure it out.
In Washington today, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a landmark decision. The court reaffirmed the legality of the death penalty on the grounds that it is, quote, totally badass.
Legal experts are already talking about how this clearly marks a trend towards the Roberts Court being less strictly constitutional and more strictly awesome.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
8:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So on the subject of the Mile High Club, if you're just joining me, there's a company in Las Vegas. You can go ahead and rent an airplane for $1,000, and they'll take you up in the air. And in the back of the airplane, do your thing with whoever you brought with you. And they will give you a certificate saying that you're officially a member of the Mile High Club. And when they say that the pilot is going to be up front facing forward with the drapes closed and noise-canceling headphones, how do I know that there's not cameras all over the place in there? Because someone wants to record this. But anyway, I was starting to question exactly what do you have to have in order to qualify for the Mile High Club. Because if a plane is sitting on the ground at the Denver airport, they're a mile up. Or at Laramie in Wyoming, that's more than a mile up. Or does it actually have to be flying? So Tim from Casper, would a balloon qualify? I would hope so. You're airborne. You're more than a mile up. So, okay, you guys can discuss that amongst yourselves and get back with me on that. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. All right. I mentioned this morning, first off, right out of the gate, beginning of the show. Those of you who join me later, you got it now. You got to get in on this. The FDA did something completely boneheaded. I know, shocking, right? They told a company they needed to, from Costco, this company needed to recall about 800,000 80,000 pounds of butter. Because there's something on there that some people are allergic to, and it's not listed as an ingredient. And that ingredient is milk. Yeah, so you pick up a tub of butter and you look at the ingredients. It doesn't list milk. Some people are allergic to milk, and therefore you got to recall it. Now, one of the suggestions from earlier this morning, why not just put a sticker on there that says contains milk, if that's what bothers you? But my next question is, who the hell out there doesn't know that butter is made from milk? Why would you have to put contains milk on? That's like a peanut butter jar that reads contains peanuts. I mean, what is peanut butter made out of? Obviously, peanuts. Right. So if you have a peanut allergy, it says peanut butter. But everybody, even if it didn't, everybody knows what peanut butter is. And so you shouldn't have to say it. But the FDA made them recall 80,000 pounds of butter. And so I was saying this morning, I cannot wait for the new head of the FDA under Trump, whoever Trump appoints. But also, let's get Elon Musk in there and start cleaning out these boneheaded regulations. Enough already. Just enough. When we get to this point, and that's a lot of butter to throw away. That's a lot of butter to throw away. Now, my answer, if I was Costco or the company who produced the butter, hey, FDA, we're not doing it. Let's go to court on this. We're not doing it. And let's see what the FDA does. My worry is that they went ahead and did it. Well, the government said so we have to. If the government comes down, anybody, any government agency comes down with some boneheaded rule, and it obviously is boneheaded in this case, do you have to comply? No. We have these things called the courts. And you can turn and go, no, we're going to go to a judge. We're going to have the judge stay that order. We're not taking, in fact, we're going to continue selling this stuff. We're not taking it off the shelf. You have got to be kidding me. I like it when people fight stuff like this. What I especially want to see is whoever's going to be the new head of the FDA and Elon Musk, I really hope they get in there and just clean this out. Because this FDA ruling it shows a much bigger problem. If they're doing this with butter because they don't know it's made out of milk, you got to say milk on there. Then how bad is it really? How deep does it go? And I think we all understand how bad it really is. And that's part of what needs to be fixed. Okay, Dan in Cheyenne says, I was hiking up 14er in Colorado. When a guy stopped me shortly before the top, he asked me to wait 10 minutes as a couple was celebrating. Does that mean that they're a member of the 14,000-foot club? I don't see why not. Here's Michelle in Cheyenne. Say yuck, but there is a vegan butter. I don't want to know what's in it. Well, here's a discussion we've had before, and I understand why certain companies, but also farmers and ranchers do this. So if you make something that is, let's say, a yogurt that's not made out of milk, can you call it yogurt? It would have to be called something else, right? If you're going to make a butter, but it's not made out of milk, is it butter? I don't think you can sell it as butter. I think you have to sell it as something else, right? In fact, let's go back to this. Remember this piece?
Milking a 600-kilogram Holstein? Now that's easy. Milking a 1-gram almond? That's hard. Tiny little udders. Tiny. Picture of my grandfather in World War II. When he got back from the war, he started this here nut milkery, and I'm third-generation nut milker now, and I love what I do. There's so much confusion in city folk these days. They're talking about nuts don't lactate, nuts don't have nipples. I'll show you a nut nipple. So this is a tandem nut milker. It milks 2 nuts at a time. It's comfortable for them. that want to be milked. You'll never see a happier nut than a freshly milked nut. And, you can hear them a little bit. If you listen, you hear that chirping? That's a happy nut. Back in the old days, we used to train gerbils to milk the nuts, but they would eat some of our herd, and it wasn't ideal. So these dual nut milkers have really changed the game. I'd say, I know exactly how many we got. We got 564 of these running 24/7. It's quite the operation. So it takes about 200 almonds to get a half gallon of almond milk. All our almonds are fully organic, grass-fed. Oh, this will last them a good month, I'd say. All these ones you see here, these are females. Now, the ones you see in the store, those are all males. They have no udder at all. And most people go their whole lives and see nothing but a male almond because, well, we don't let the females off the farm. You know, it's a hard job. I'm living the dream, and nothing makes me happier than knowing that my hard work went into making this nut milk happen. I wouldn't do anything else.
Chet Yoder says, I remember making butter, and it was made from cream, not milk. But hold on, Chet. Where does the cream come from? Yeah, we're talking dairy, in other words. So it's basically saying the same thing, right? Okay, so for the FDA to say you didn't put that it's made from milk on there, or even cream, which is from milk. Dairy product, in other words. How about just put a sticker on there if it really bothers you that much? But honestly, I hope these companies fight, and I also hope that when whoever gets in charge of the FDA, as well as Elon Musk, will step up and just fire a bunch of bureaucrats. I've been waiting for that for a long time. Just people like this need to lose their jobs, for Pete's sakes, please. Coming up on 8:30, local news coming away after local news. There's a nice long segment of open phones, and you can just jump in and interrupt me with whatever you want to talk about. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject, fine by me. We were talking briefly. FDA told Costco to remove 80,000 pounds of butter from a certain company because on their labeling, they didn't include that it was made with milk. It's butter. It's made with milk, obviously. But some people are allergic to milk, and they may not know that. I think everybody knows butter is made from milk. Now, some of the questions. Chet and Yoder asked, what about margarine? In which case, I said, margarine's basically plastic. Put it in the plastic section. And he said, you're right, it's basically plastic. Redbeard in Guernsey. Glenn, butter without milk is called margarine. I can't believe it's not butter. I've tried it. I can believe it's not butter. And yeah, remember, by the way, when they told us, for those who are old enough to remember, quit eating butter. Eat margarine instead because butter is bad for you. Then they came back and said, actually, margarine's worse than butter. And that's when I began my whole skepticism of so many things that we've been told over the years. And you've heard me talk about that. Hey, hang on, before I get into this next topic here. Real quick, I've been worried about Liz Cheney. Let me go check in on her one more time. Liz, how you doing? Okay, so sage grouse and Gillette. But that's why they call it deceptive labeling. Yeah. Well, the question, sage grouse, is why is margarine in the butter section near dairy? Why is it in the dairy section when it's not really, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, is there any dairy in margarine? Wait, let me look it up. If only we had the technology today to look up things, and I could go ahead and ask the question, what is margarine made of? Okay, here we go. Margarine is typically made from vegetable oil and or animal fats or oils, water, and other ingredients. Corn, canola, olive, or palm. Again, animal fats Okay. Oh, wait, hang on. Margarine may also contain milk. Depends on who you're buying it from. Margarine may also contain milk, salt flavorings, colorings, preservatives, vitamin A, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got to take a look. Some margarine might have some milk in it. Margarine is primarily a source of calories. The fat contained in margarine is usually between 80% and 90%, and the milk fat content is no more than 3%. So there might be a little milk in margarine, but it's a tiny percent. Margarine that contains less than 80% milk fat is considered a spread, not a margarine. This is where they get really technical about it. Most margarines are vegan, but some may contain animal-derived ingredients like milk, lactose, et cetera, et cetera. So it's made with a whole bunch of other stuff over there. But to me, it always kind of tasted like plastic or something like that. Oh, Greg is on the phone. Thank God. We were worried about you, Greg. How you doing?
I am doing well.
Okay.
But first, I wanted to say, Wyoming is not sending Mexico its best. Old Mark down in Cabo San Lucas is not the best.
Okay.
I do miss the Twin Dolphin in Cabo San Lucas. It was a great resort.
Yeah.
Schlumberger built it. Dang on. Anyway.
Yes.
I'm doing fine.
Okay.
And, yeah, I think it's just going to be a fantastic next 4 years to see which lie Republicans will buy next.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that's going to be great.
Well, I am so happy to see the number of Democrats who decided to no longer buy the lie of the Democrat Party and reject those lies and go Republican. So, I mean, we're both seeing it two ways. But no, I would like but give me an honest reaction now. When the results came in, what were you doing? I mean, were you just disappointed? I mean, were you screaming at the television? What were you doing?
No, I was actually down in New Mexico working, and I got trapped down there by Don Day's low-weather snowstorm.
Okay.
So I was down there working. I was actually watching MSNBC because Steve Kornacki,
yeah.
Again, once you started watching Steve Kornacki, you could go to bed early. You knew it was over early.
Mm.
Actually, it was over long before most of the Democrats recognized it. And so, you know, the only thing that could, and again, I was disappointed, of course, but the only thing that could have made it worse if the candidates that Mark was pushing here in Albany County would have actually won. So we actually pick up a seat, and we preserve, you know, the checks and balances against the Project 2025 legislature on the Fed side and the Christian nationalists that Wyoming has elected to its state house.
Speaking of believing lies, everything Greg just said. But continue, Greg.
No. The real thing I wanted to ask about is had you seen that the Interior Department gave away $16.45 billion for Biden's energy policy? In other words, this year's overall disbursement is fourth largest since 1982, with 3 of the 4 highest years occurring the past 4 years. That's for energy production on our land.
Uh-huh.
So how did Biden, the hatred of our oil, produce those kinds of records? That's what I want to ask.
First off, what kind of energy are we producing here? All? Okay. I would have to see the numbers. I tell you what, I'm not going to, because you believe so many things that just aren't true. I'm not going to just believe. I'm not going to believe what you told me. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying you get so many things wrong that I'm not going to just believe it. I'm going to go look it up to see what he did. But by the way, when it comes to oil and gas and so on, you know I'm against subsidies, right? What I want is a free market. And that's what I'm looking forward to in the next 4 years. Let's end the subsidies and let's let the market sort it out, and we'll do a whole lot better.
Oh, I'm not a renewable guy. I've said that before. Here's what I'll say, though, is that you want things clean, right? And so what I'll ask is if you exempt coal ash from being a hazardous waste and you bury it in unlined pits, you're actually transferring pollution to the taxpayer to clean up. So coal has gotten benefits in the past that you may not want to admit. And so we need to fix those things too.
I'm
Biden
against
tried
subsidies.
to do that, but there was
I'm against subsidies. What I want is a free market system. I do want clean, of course, obviously. Those people who are producing the energy need to do it in a clean way, and that's what our government is for, to make sure it's done clean. Let's get rid of the nonsense that CO2 is a pollutant. That's nonsense. But other than that, to keep it clean, if somebody's out there drilling and digging for energy, they need to make sure that they left it the way they found it, and that's why we have a government.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Okay.
I'll just say that I don't worry about CO2 coming out of a stack. I'm a big fan of neurotoxins, which you happen to breathe every time you get in your plane. I love that the pilots pilots like you have been a fantastic resource of understanding what lead does to the body. I really want to commend your dedication to the science of what lead does to people.
For those who don't know, what Greg's talking about is in a piston-powered airplane, they use what's called avgas. And for those who remember when the automobile had leaded gasoline, they still have lead in the gasoline of aviation. And it's to make sure that things don't get clogged up and shut down, so there's a benefit to that. However, there's a bad side to it, which we're pumping lead into the atmosphere. I've been in favor of getting rid of that for a very long time, but Greg, if you go ahead and look into this, one of the biggest problems with getting rid of lead in gasoline for aviation has been government bureaucracy. We probably could have accomplished it a long time ago.
Well, it's been that the engines, you get a better boost out of it because you get higher octane. It absolutely poisoned the world. When you say cultural differences cause crime, I say, the 4 dead in Ohio in 1973 were a result of, putting lead into the atmosphere and making people a little erratic. We're far better people since we took that lead out of gasoline. Right. And so I'm just hoping for the best health outcome for you, Glenn, and for those that have to breathe that.
Well, the nice thing is, as I'm flying along in the airplane, I'm not inhaling the lead is coming out of the pipe, which is nowhere near me. So I don't have to worry about that.
Well, actually, it comes up in the cabin.
No, it doesn't. If I have a leak in my engine somewhere, it does, or it doesn't. I'm not inhaling the stuff.
Well, the 2024 ISA on lead, it's a fantastic read, Glenn. I suggest you read it because pilots take a real leading role in showing how, they're voluntarily breathing the lead.
Okay.
It does come up into the cabin. I just want to make sure.
If that's what you think, then Greg, you know why then I'm so insane. Okay.
Well,
obviously, I go up there every day breathing lead. But anyway, let's get back to the story here. So we have now the Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, and they have the presidency. Now, here's what I'm waiting for, Greg. I want to see that this time I have been very disappointed in the Republican Party, that they actually work with this president, because last time Trump had as much trouble with the Republicans as he did the Democrats. I'm hoping, and I especially hope that Elon Musk actually does get the job of cleaning out the bureaucracy of all the lame nerds that are in there, so we can finally have a government that functions instead of what we have right now. I'm hoping for some good changes. Let's see what happens.
Well, it is going to be a fantastic 4 years.
Okay.
I didn't think we would elect the Antichrist as it comes down to the revelation, but we have. That's going to be just great.
Yeah, it's okay. It all ends. Look, we only have 6 years to go until we reach the tipping point, and then climate change kills us all. So don't worry about it.
Well, I'm not. Again, I tell you what, it is the best time to be alive.
Yes.
Wyoming is so much warmer. Again, moving here has been one of the greatest things in my life, and I'm sure you think the same thing.
Yes, all the cow farts. Yeah, thank you, Greg. I'm glad that you're okay. I really am glad you're okay. Okay, we've heard from Greg. Lori and Laramie, curious, what work has Greg been doing in Mexico? I could probably answer that. Let your imagination run wild, okay? It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. On air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
All righty, here we go. The Wyoming Cowboy. Can you hear me? Okay, the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team will be at Texas Tech tomorrow. The folks are coming off an 81-66 win over Tennessee State on Sunday at Laramie. They shot 52% from the field in the game, but a brutal 50% from the free throw line. Obi Agbim was great for Wyoming with 24 points. He was 10 of 13 from the field. Texas Tech has former Wyoming coach Jeff Linder as an assistant. That may be a little bit awkward. That's a 6 p.m. start on Wednesday. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team coming off a 76-63 loss to BYU in Provo on Saturday to drop to 0-2. Cowgirls had a strong second quarter, outscoring BYU 22-11, but a horrendous third quarter, going 1 of 12 in the field and 0 for 6 from the three-point line. At the same time, BYU scorched UW with 12 of 19 shooting in the quarter and outscored Wyoming in that third quarter of play 31-6. Cowgirls will be at home tomorrow in Laramie to beat Regis out of Denver. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys with their biggest game of the year on Friday in Fort Collins, hosting the border as CSU will host the Border War, the 116th edition of the Border War with Colorado State. Pokes had last week off. They're coming off a 49-45 win over New Mexico 2 weeks ago to improve the 2-7 overall, 2-3 in Mountain West play. They got a nice game from quarterback Caden Anderson, who threw for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. CSU is 6-3 overall, 4-0 in league play after a 38-21 win over Nevada the last time out. UW has won 3 straight Border War games and 7 of the last 8, but they're 10.5-point underdogs in Friday's game. That will start at 6 p.m. from Fort Collins. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. That's it in sports for now.
Okay, now I know you probably disagree with me on this, but I can forgive UW a lot if they keep the boot.
I can forgive them a lot. Well, yes. Some. Okay, it's a bad season, yes. But this will make their season.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
This will absolutely make their season.
Just do this.
Yes.
And,
it's their bowl game. It's their championship game. It means everything it means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah. You realize, you guys lose this over UW, the kind of crap we have to give you for the rest of the year.
CSU would be so embarrassed to lose to Wyoming in this game.
That's right. Okay. Which you would love.
Oh, I'd love that, yeah.
Wake up, Wyoming. The time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday, which doesn't suck as much as Monday.
Today's show is sponsored by pretzel flavored mustard. Why eat the pretzel when you can just eat the mustard?
Yeah, and you don't need any teeth to do it. Non-chewing involved or something like that. Anyway.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in, and let's do this thing.
888-97 with the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. By the way, if you missed it last hour, did finally get a call from Greg in Laramie and got a chance to ask him what he thought about the election. And Greg's doing fine. He's disappointed, but he's handling it okay. Meantime, every so often, we just do a safety check on Liz Cheney. How you doing, Liz? Ed Simmons. 888-97 Woods the phone number. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Or do what a lot of other people do. Use your Wake Up Wyoming app, which is free to download at your app store, and just send me text messages by hitting the chat option. All right. This is just a mix of things as I do a little bit of house cleaning. So pardon me if I jump around a little bit. First off, let's talk about Leonardo DiCaprio. A brilliant actor, but so easy to pick on because he's your typical Hollywood elitist type. Leonardo DiCaprio turned 50 years old. Congratulations, Leo. At 50 years old, he's had quite a career. So he decided to throw himself a birthday party. Very cool. I think he should. Especially because he's seen such success. 50 years old, throw yourself a party. His 50th birthday party, quite a sight to see. He's in Hollywood, so there's an A-list of Hollywood actors showing up. Neighbors were not happy because the party went on really late and it was loud. Some people included Katy Perry, Orlando Bloom, and it goes on and on and on. Bill Maher was there. Okay, whole bunch of supermodels. He loves to surround himself by supermodels. And they were all showing up at the party in either really hot sports cars or limousines. You know, carbon pollution. Just so you know. Many people didn't just travel from Hollywood to the party. They traveled from other places where they were. In other words, they got on their corporate jets. And they went to the party in corporate jets and then showed up in either luxury vehicles. Well, luxury vehicles of one kind, sports cars or limousines, whatever it might be. Now, one guy next to our neighbors said, people are driving over my private property, my neighbor's private property. So, in other words, it was a really raucous party that got a lot of neighbors just mad as hell. And okay. And I don't mind, again, if he wants to have a big, loud party. And if any damage was done and the neighbors were stay up all night because of how loud it was, he owes them an apology and maybe he should go fix their grass or whatever the case is. But what I want to point out is Leo has this big party in his big mansion, one of several that he owns, that one mansion has a bigger carbon footprint than your entire life. And he owns several of those mansions. And they show up in corporate jets and limousines and sports cars. So screw that carbon footprint. And they were serving meat. No, it was not vegan to save. They were not serving bugs to save the planet. Just pointing that out. All right, now let's go over to MSNBC real quick. You'll like this one. Doesn't surprise me when Greg from Laramie called. He was watching the election on MSNBC, which doesn't surprise me at all. It's no wonder to me why Greg is so misinformed about so many things, because he's watching MSNBC. You know, if I were him, really to get his head clear, if I could, get him to turn off all of the news networks, all of them. Don't turn to them at all, because they're not reliable. But all right, MSNBC had the lowest ratings by far of any of the networks during election night. I mean, they were way back, way back. Fox had the highest ratings by far, huge numbers. All right, but afterwards, MSNBC saw its audience crater on Thursday last week, just days after the network beat CNN, and CNN did really bad too. Thursday's total average viewer, and it talks about the different numbers for the different networks, but MSNBC just cratered after the Democrats lost. Their ratings are at some of the lowest that have ever been seen. So people tuned in on election night to MSNBC, which is the best ratings they've seen in a while, but they were still way back there number-wise. And then afterwards, the number of people that have left MSNBC, we'll see what happens when Trump gets into office. We'll see if MSNBC's ratings go up again amongst liberals. Because last time Trump was president, MSNBC had higher ratings because of all the liberals looking for some place to go where they could hear everything that they already agreed with reinforced over and over again. All right, back to the phones I go. 888-97 Woods the phone number. 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Hey, Jude.
Hey, you're right on that, MSNBC. They're going to have trouble. I was going to talk about Trump's pick for Secretary of State, Rubio.
Yeah.
Okay, I've watched him for a long, long time. And he was pretty buddy-buddy with Obama at one point. riding around on his plane. He just reminded me of a little heel biter is what he reminded me of. I hope Trump finds somebody a little more to our way of thinking than Rubio. I've never trusted him. I did call John Barrasso's office this morning, and I told him absolutely no on Thune and Cornyn. Those are Liz Cheney acolytes. They're Mitch McConnell's, pals. And we need somebody that's going to actually do something in the Senate. So I'm pushing for Rick Scott. He's proven himself over the years, and he's never said a derogatory word about Trump. But anyway, I wanted to also remind everybody tonight is planning and zoning on that stupid solar farm they're wanting to put in out in Natrona. Be there if you can. We're going to break up some of the topics so that if you don't have a topic, just ask one of me or Rose, and we'll give you a topic with all the information that goes with it. And Rose will be probably the first presenter, and then I think I want Kelly Birch up next, and then Stacy from Natrona, since she is a solar panel gal that sells it to like homes and stuff, and she knows quite a bit about the industry. And we've got some really good people going to speak tonight. I hear that we're going to have a couple of our representatives there as well, so Planning and Zoning knows exactly what they're going to be getting into if they okay this, because people aren't going to tolerate their water. It's like gold to them out there being poisoned. Or, we just heard that wreck on the radio this morning on 26. Some guy came up over the hill. A woman was turning into her driveway off of 26, hit her in the back and killed her. Now, what are we going to do with 350 trucks coming in and out of there, for the next 2 years? How many people are going to die? These are some of the issues that people are going to be bringing up tonight. And I just wanted to remind everybody from Coates Road, we stood by you. It's time to come stand by us, people.
Okay. Thank you. Call me tomorrow. Let me know how it goes.
I will. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Hello. I finished my free trial of adulting. I'm no longer interested. I'd like to cancel my subscription. Is there a manager that I can talk to?
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
888-90. Wait, I did that wrong. 888-97-WOODS. That's our phone number. 888-97-WOODS is where you call to get through to the program to talk to me on the air. And, of course, you can always use the Wake Up Wyoming app. So we'll just hit chat on that and chat with me, and I'll go ahead and talk about it on the air and off the air, too. So, okay, for those people who would like to get out of the United States, and there's quite a few celebrities who, remember, they said they were going. I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, I guess they didn't see it coming. They were so convinced that Harris was going to win. Now they're busy packing or something like that. But I expect them to be gone. Because remember, Trump is Hitler. Therefore, and we're never going to have another free election again. That's what they were sold, so they believe it. Well, how about this? Why not make something fun out of it? The day after Trump won, one internet search for moving to Canada and Britain and Australia surged, as I've told you before. Not everyone can afford to. And I even went through, what does it take if you want to go to Canada or some of these other countries? What does it take to actually immigrate there? It's really an extensive process. For those people who are in favor of illegal immigration into America, wait till you try to move to Canada. Oh, that's a hassle. That really is a hassle. You're probably not going to make it. But you can take a cruise. For example, Villeray Residences announced they will be launching a 4-year cruise for those looking to flee the country because of Trump. They're calling it the Skip Forward Cruise. Now, hold on. If they're going to do this, this is an actual thing they can book. It's a cruise that'll go around the world for 4 years. I expected it to be named the Titanic, but no such luck for the rest of you. Now, I want to know if they're going to be cruising around the world for 4 years, this better be a solar power or sail-powered ship. They better not be using diesel or something like that because, you know, climate change and all of that. I mean, imagine a bunch of leftists get on a cruise ship and spend 4 years puttering around with these big engines pushing them all over the world. So here's the story. It actually says Don Voyage, you know, Donald Trump, Don Voyage. I get it. The day after Trump's victory, cruise line introduced a travel package for those who want to skip forward. For up the next 4 years, the company also offers 2-year midterm selection package. So, so if the midterm elections go the way you want them to go, you might want to come back. But right now, here's the pitch from the company. Residents have the flexibility to join their customized journey at any port during the continuous global adventure for up to 4 years. Pay once and never worry about it again, the site reads. The moment you step on board, your journey begins. Leave behind the familiar. Embrace the unknown. As you navigate the world's most iconic and inspiring locations. Okay, well, let me see. There's a video here of a tour of the ship. Oh, my God. The ship has a smokestack on top. Oh. You might think, surely, the story says there's a catch. Well, of course, there is, in fact. First of all, there's a cost. Oh, you mean this is not subsidized by the taxpayers? Liberals don't want to have to pay for things? All right. So, a 4-year cruise costs $159,999. Don't you love it when they do that? I mean, they could add that extra penny in there and just make it $160,000, but no. That's per person, by the way, for a double room, or $255,999 for a single occupancy cabin. If you don't want a roommate, you want to do this all by yourself. Even though our high inflation era, the story says, shows that's roughly the price of a house in some parts of the country, where you can live forever. I wonder, can you finance this? I wonder if financing is available. Secondly, the cruise line is somewhat notorious for stiffing people. Last year on its maiden voyage, which sold a 3-year at-sea adventure for retirees, it was called off 2 weeks before departure, leaving some of the passengers homeless. It turned out that they didn't even have the ship. The company had not purchased the ship for the voyage yet. But I have heard about retirees that were looking at a retirement village to live in, but then realized that taking a cruise for the rest of the life would cost the same amount of money. And they get to see the world, so they did that. Okay, so the company had promised a full refund, but had to make monthly installments to the passenger. Can you imagine, you spend your life savings on a trip like this only to get stuck in the United States, you can't leave, and now you're homeless. And finally, it does appear that the company has a ship now, finally. So even if you have the money, you're willing to risk doing business with a company that has a less than stellar reputation. Well, when you're dealing with Hitler coming into office, I guess so. Imagine what socializing with people who equate Trump with Hitler would be like all day, and you can't escape for 4 years. Okay? So that is available to those of you who want to get out of the country. You can take that 4-year cruise. But like I said, and I went through this the day after the election, for those people who want to leave the country, you should really check into it. If you think, well, I'm just going to move to Canada, good luck. Moving to Canada, they have some really strict rules. Really strict. So does the UK and other European countries. So if you think you're just going to pack up and move there, no, you're not. They have stricter immigration laws than we do here in the United States. Especially, I mean, even if we enforced our laws, but especially since we were just letting people walk right in. You're not just going to walk into those countries. All right, coming up on some local business, we have to take care of news right there at 9:30. After news, update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get rolling back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Yes, you can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. It's fine by me. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
8. Live and local all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, you can interrupt me if you want. I got a few things I'm going to get through. I'm sort of topic hopping right now. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. 888-97-WOODS. More from the cult of climate change.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying. Just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
Okay, several stories here. Let me see. I'll start with California. California's offshore wind plans sparked debate over environmental impact. Really? Let's find out.
California has big plans for its offshore wind industry, but environmental advocates are pushing back as developers behind these projects accuse those advocacy groups of not telling the whole truth. California wants to produce 25 gigawatts of energy from offshore wind farms by 2045. That's enough to power 25 million homes and provide about 13% of the state's electricity. However, one nonprofit group says these actions will harm or kill local marine life. The Responsible Energy Adaptation for California's Transition, or REACT Alliance, is the organization pushing these claims. They say the equipment that will be used to survey the area for offshore wind development is going to produce so much sound that will harm fish and marine mammal species in these waters. At the purported 228 decibels of sound these machines will create, that's in the same range of noise created by a jet engine getting ready for takeoff, loud enough to rupture a human eardrum. Offshore wind developers call these claims misinformation, accusing REACT of cherry-picking data and organizing a strategic effort against offshore wind. The energy companies argue that while the decibel level is high, the fact that it's happening underwater and at a higher frequency means the sounds won't impact marine wildlife. Meanwhile, two commercial fishing groups in Central California are also joining the opposition against offshore wind, filing lawsuits that claim these clean energy initiatives will disrupt marine habitats and lead to declines in fish populations. They assert noise from similar underwater surveys resulted in reduced catch rates of some fish species by up to 70%.
Well, okay, so the story goes on from there. You get the idea. It's interesting that even so-called environmental groups who would normally love wind and solar are actually starting to come out in opposition of some of these things. Okay, so voters, the headline says, shoots down natural gas ban in Kamala Harris strongholds, but Biden rushes to secure the liquefied natural gas pause. Story says voters rejected a natural gas measure in homes for new gas home hookups in the blue state of Washington. So right now, if you want to build a new home in Washington state, you can still go ahead and hook up to natural gas like you used to. Biden-Harris administration have been on a campaign of that climate agenda. Not only did Democrat candidate Kamala Harris lose the presidential election, the story says, but a man who called it climate hysteria and called it a hoax, Donald Trump. In 2019, Berkeley, California became the first city in the U.S. to ban natural gas hookups in new construction. The Sierra Club, which is managing $1 billion from billionaire Michael Bloomberg, to fund a campaign to prevent customers from accessing any kind of organic fuels like coal, gas, and oil, hailed the move And they thought they were going to be able to do this around the country. But when voters have been asked, they rejected the members. So let's go to Washington State. Voters rejected the natural gas ban by 68%. On the other coast in Berkeley, they rejected the measure by 72%. So far in this past election, those places where they put it on the ballot, should we reject natural gas, not allow people to hook it up in their new homes? New homes can't have it. That was rejected in places, especially in states that were Democrat strongholds. Even Democrats said, no, we want our gas stoves and other gas appliances and so on. All right, now, let's go to Poland. Poland's bringing the largest gas-fired power plant online, largest known. State-owned largest power producer in Poland is putting on a power station. See, commercial operation begins soon. Facility is now the country's largest gas-fired power plant. It should supply about 5% of the electricity needed for the entire nation. And see, the country's deputy climate minister said the new facility not only has a direct impact on the stability of the electric system, but their national security as well. So even someone who's in favor, or so they say anyway, someone who's in favor of fighting climate change through reducing carbon emissions, wants to bring this natural gas plant online for affordable, reliable energy. Quote, gas investment is a very important part of the energy transition toward climate neutrality. What, climate neutrality? That's a new one on me. I have to kind of think about that for a bit. Because I've heard a lot of things said about climate change. Like, for example, if you don't think humans are causing catastrophic climate change, you're a climate denier. And if you think about climate denier, that sentence doesn't make any sense. That you're a climate denier. But they're trying to come up with some way to describe you in very few words. So what do I do with that? Well, let me go ahead. I just closed it up, but I'm going to open it up again because I hadn't heard that before. And I want to know exactly what he means by that. Hold on. There's Poland again. Pardon me, because I just closed out the story. Let me get down to the bottom of it. Okay. Very important. Climate neutrality. Natural gas is a very important part of our investment moving toward climate neutrality. Okay, I want a definition of what they mean by that. 943, Wake Up Wyoming.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
But over here with me, Frank Gambino has decided to open up my door. Is it strange over here?
Yes, it's kind of a crypty kind of a place. It's warm in here.
It is. I noticed that. And if I turn on the thing that's supposed to cool us down, it makes it
hotter?
warmer. Yes.
Beautiful.
Figure that out again. Okay, so I wanted to dig in a little bit because we didn't do it last hour. So, okay, the boot. Where are they holding the game?
The game is in Fort Collins.
Okay.
So later on this week, the ROTC units from each school will run the boot from Laramie. Mm-hmm. They'll meet at the border, hand the boot off, and they'll run it over to Fort Collins.
Okay.
The boot's from a guy who ran the ROTC program at CSU in the late 60s, 68. He actually wore the boot in Vietnam.
Okay.
It's like 68 and 69 and stuff like that. So it's very important. So the coaches and the administrators, they meet at the border. They take a lot of pictures and blah, blah, blah. And they run. It's probably 40, 45 miles.
Yes. But how many people are running it? Because
they probably have a contingent. I thought maybe more than 10, maybe more than that.
Okay.
They kind of hand it off. And
okay. I figure with the number of
players are running it? No, these are members of the ROTC from each school.
ROTC. So I'm figuring they're probably just a couple of miles per person.
I would think so, yeah. And then somebody else takes over, and then they meet at the border, hand it off, and then they go out the rest of the way.
Okay. What time is the game?
6 o'clock on Friday.
Okay.
Friday.
Televised.
Is that
televised?
Yeah, it's on somebody will have it.
Somebody will have it somewhere. Okay. Now, but you were putting the odds of UW not very good, but it would be great if they won because you want to see Colorado
CSU suffer. I want to see CSU suffer.
How did we lose to those guys?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be perfect? Wyoming's having a terrible season, and CSU's having a pretty good season.
Yeah.
CSU would have to win all their games to qualify for the conference championship, and here's Wyoming at 2-7 goes in there and wins and knocks the Rams out of the contention.
Okay.
Oh, how sweet it is.
See, now, normally I would say to UW, hey, guys, no pressure, but pressure.
This is their season.
They're feeling it.
Yeah. This is their bowl game, their championship. This is everything. Since the season's gone south, this is what you play for.
Yeah, this is why I was saying last hour, look, if you guys just do this, we can forgive a lot.
It will ease the pain and the
yes,
sting.
Yes,
let's put it that
a little bit. Yeah.
All righty, that border war between Wyoming and Colorado State is on Friday in Fort Collins. It'll be the 116th edition. Pokes had last week off, and we're coming off a 49-45 win over New Mexico 2 weeks ago to improve to 2-7 overall, 2-3 in Mountain West Conference play. They got a nice game from the new starting quarterback Caden Anderson, and that is a big step forward. CSU is 6-3 overall and 4-0 in league play after a 38-21 win over Nevada their last time out. UW has won the last 3 border war games and 7 of the last 8, but they're 10.5-point underdogs in the Friday's game, which will start at 6 o'clock from Fort Collins. We'll have that for you on KG Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team will be at Texas Tech tomorrow in Lubbock. Pokes are coming off an 81-66 win over Tennessee State on Sunday in Laramie. They shot 52% from the field in the game, but a brutal 50% from the free throw line. Obi Agbim was great for Wyoming with 24 points on 10 of 13 from the floor. Texas Tech with former Wyoming head coach Jeff Linder now as an assistant there, so that could be kind of a weird deal. That's a 6 p.m. start on Wednesday from Lubbock. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team coming off a 76-63 loss to BYU in Provo on Saturday to drop to 0-2. Cowgirls had a strong second quarter, outscoring BYU 22-11, but had a horrendous third quarter. They went 1 for 12 from the field and 0 for 6 from the three-point line. At the same time, BYU scorched UW with 12 of 19 shooting in the quarter and outscoring UW in the quarter 31-6. Cowgirls will be at home tomorrow night in Laramie to beat Regis out of Denver. Girls high school swimming and diving meet for 3A and 4A wrapped up on Saturday in Cheyenne. Laramie won the state for the 4A girls championship for the 7th time in 8 years, as the Plainsmen won just 2 events but were competitive in every event. Maggie Turpin of Laramie repeated as the state diving champion. Green River was second in the team standings and Cheyenne Central third. Lander won the 3A girls state title, taking first in 11 of 12 events. Lander has won the last 3 of the last 4 state championships in 3A girls swimming and diving, and 7 years out of the last 9. And that's it in sports.
Okay, so where in Colorado is this game?
Fort Collins.
Okay.
You know where it's at.
Yes. Okay, so Fort Collins. Let me see. This is going to be, I'm just checking the weather forecast there. So this is Saturday. 53 degrees and sunny.
Friday. What is Friday's?
Friday. Partly cloudy, 53 degrees.
Oh, perfect.
And there's not supposed to be much for wind.
Perfect.
So, this should be a really nice day for you guys to get out there. You going down to the game?
I wish I'll be at state football.
Oh, state football.
So high school state football and the game are on the same day. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll be in Laramie. So after the 2 games on Friday, I'm going to go find a place to watch in Laramie. And it'll be...
Somebody's going to have it on.
Everybody's going to have it on.
Beer,
everybody.
Wings... And then you found the game. If it has beer and wings, you found the game.
Every TV in Laramie.
Every TV.
The game on.
Yes, okay. I think it's a law.
It has to be.
Just wake up one.